Ladies and gentlemen, fellow shareholders, the time for the meeting is now. So, can we all please kindly take our seats so we can start today's proceedings? Thank you. Thank you. Would everyone take their seat, please? Let's all take our seats, please, now. Okay, thank you. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow shareholders. The time is now just past 10 a.m. I have to start by saying what a particular pleasure it is for us to be able to meet live and in person today after a few years when, because of the pandemic, we had to resort to virtual annual general meetings. So it's a great pleasure that we're able to come here today. And we give praise and thanks to the Almighty God that saw us through the pandemic. This meeting is holding in accordance with Section 237, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. In addition to this, Article 53 of the Articles of Association of the company requires that we have at least 25 members present in person or by way of proxies, representing a third of the issued and fully paid up shares of the company present for the meeting to be considered duly convened. Therefore, subject to confirmation of the same by the registrars of our company, it is important to note that this proceeding is being streamed live on Zoom. Will the registrars kindly confirm that we indeed do have a quorum, if that is the case? Yeah. Yeah, but registrars will tell us we have a quorum. Will registrars please confirm that we do have a quorum?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, directors, regulatory officers, present and esteemed shareholders. My name is Augustina Obi and I represent Coronation Registrars Limited, registrars to Aradel Holdings Plc. We confirm that at the start of this meeting, we have 88 members physically present and 50 members represented by proxies, with a total of 108,563,965 shareholding, representing 49.97% of the issued share capital of the company. With this information, we hereby confirm that a quorum has been formed in accordance with Articles 53 of the Articles of Association. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next item is, you'll have a chance to make, no, not now, please. We'll take the national anthem now. Thank you. It's all set. Thank you. Please be seated. As always, we'll commence proceedings with a prayer from Alaja Kudaisi. Thank you.
صلوا على النبي الكريم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. I give thanks to Almighty Allah for enabling us to gather here this morning after a long absence of a physical meeting. We are having one today. Glory and thanks be to Almighty Allah. As we start this get-together meeting, so to say, God Almighty, let all the shareholders reap the fruit of their labors. Our directors that are at the forefront of this company, God energize them. Please increase them in wisdom and in knowledge so that they will take this company to the next level. All these and more I ask for in the mighty name of Allah. I pray for our country, Nigeria. God, let there be peace. Let there be peace. Let there be peace. All these and more I ask for in the mighty name of Allah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Na'atayna kal kawsar. Fasalli li rabbuka wa na'ar. Inna shaniyaka huwal abtar. Amin. 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 Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifuna. Wa salamu alal mursalin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Amin. Sallu ala nabi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of welcoming you all again to your company's 28th annual general meeting. And I hereby declare this meeting convened. Whilst it's the 28th AGM of your company, in many ways, it's really the first annual general meeting in a new era of our company. As you know, we have a new name, we have a new logo, and we have a very ambitious program for the future. We have a very illustrious past, but of course, we can't rest on our laurels. And important as the past is in terms of being aware of where we started from, basically from nowhere to where we are today, what matters, the only thing that matters now is where we go from here. And later in the proceedings, when you listen to our CEO and hear him lay out the programs for the future, because it's all about the present and the future. The past is now essentially history. So it's the 28th annual general meeting of the company, but really is the first annual general meeting for what we hope and expect will be a new era of being able to take advantage of opportunities. The environment, of course, is no easier. If anything, it's even more difficult than in the past. However, I believe that we have a management team under the leadership of a chief executive officer that are more than alive to both their responsibilities as well as to the expectations of we, the shareholders. Thank you. My name is Ladija Desimi, chairman of your company. Thank you. And now I call on the other directors of the company's secretary, chairman of the statutory audit committee, and the representatives of the various regulatory bodies to kindly introduce themselves.
Good morning, distinguished shareholders. My name is Adegbite Falade, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Adigola Adeshino,
the Chief Finance Officer of your esteemed company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Afolabi Oladele. I'm a non-executive director representing African Capital Alliance.
I think it's my turn. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Aradel Holdings, and I'm a non-executive director of your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Austin Olorumshola, and I'm a non-executive director of your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Olubenga Adetoro. I'm a non-executive director in your esteemed company, representing African Capital Alliance.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Patricia Simon Hart, and I am an independent non-executive director of your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Titio Mishure, and I'm the secretary to your company.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Olufemi Akinsanya. I am the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee.
Good morning, Chairman and the directors. My name is Census Rosemary. I'm representing Securities and Exchange Commission.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, and shareholders. My name is Chiwendu Eke, representing NASD OTC Securities Exchange.
I now call on our company secretary to read the notice convening this meeting.
Good morning again, esteemed shareholders. Notice of Annual General Meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 28th Annual General Meeting of the members of Aradel Holdings Plc, formerly Niger Delta Exploration and Production Plc, will hold at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 29th of August, 2023, at the external boardroom of the Federal Palace Hotel, Victoria Island, Lagos, to transact the following business. Ordinary business, to lay before the members the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2022 and the report of the directors, auditors, and audit committee thereon, to declare a dividend, to re-elect directors retiring by rotation, to ratify the appointment of Miss Patricia Simon Hart as an independent non-executive director, to reappoint the external auditors, to authorize the directors to determine the remuneration of the external auditors, to re-elect and or elect members of the Statutory Audit Committee, This notice is dated the 4th of August, 2023, and was issued by order of the board. Thank you very much.
Actually, at this point, I'd like us to have a distinguished director who is in Geneva and who represents a very, very substantial shareholder on the board of your company to kindly introduce himself. He's online, so when the others were introducing themselves, somehow we skipped it. But I think it's important for us to have him introduce himself. There he is.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, and Mr. Chairman and esteemed shareholders. My name is Thierry Georgia. I am a non-executive director representing Petroline Ocean Limited.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Madam Secretary. The chairman's statement, as well as that of the managing director, are contained on pages 12 to 14 and 16 to 18, respectively, of the annual report and accounts. Having circulated the annual report and accounts earlier to all shareholders, I believe in some cases both in hard copy as well as by email, may I crave your indulgence that we take both statements as read. Do we have any objections? Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
We don't have an annual report here. They said they were bringing it. When we came in, we asked. They said they will bring it before the meeting. And up till this moment, we don't have copies of annual reports. We don't have copy of the annual report. I will oblige you if you can order them to give us annual report, please.
Yes, thank you. But I understand that we did send hard copies to shareholders, and we also sent the same by way of email to every shareholder. And we only printed so many copies. And I understand that hopefully most shareholders would have received their own hard copies as well as the soft copies. Yes, but as I said, it was mailed to every shareholder, and there are a few thousands of shareholders. It was also sent by email to all the shareholders. And you know, we can only print so many copies. I hope and expect that most shareholders did receive their mailed hard copies. And also soft copy by way of email. Well, we'll see if we can find a few extra copies. Thank you. I would now like to formally lay before the meeting the company's audited and consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2022, together with the reports respectively of the directors, the auditors, and the audit committee thereon. The next item is a report by the external auditors of the company, financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2022. May I invite the representative of Deloitte and Touche to present their report.
Good morning, distinguished shareholders. My name is Folorunsho Hunga, representing Deloitte and Touche. The audit report is on page 64 and 65 of the annual report that I believe has been circulated. Because it's a two-page document, I want to request, crave the indulgence of the chairman to permit me not to read every word in the opinion. Mr. Chairman, sir. Okay, thank you for the permission. I will. Okay, I will read the first two paragraphs and the last paragraph. Okay, if the shareholder so desire, I will be glad to read every word. Okay, page 64. Independent auditors report to the shareholders of Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, now Aradel Holdings Plc. Report on the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements. Opinion. We have audited the consolidated and separate financial statements of Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, now Aradel Holdings Plc, and its subsidiaries, the group and the company, set out on pages 66 to 135, which comprise the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as at 31 December 2022, the statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, the changes in equity and cash flows for the year then ended, the notes to the consolidated and separate financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC as at 31 December 2022, and of its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria Act 2011. Basis of opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the group in accordance with the requirements of the International Ethics Standards Board for accountants, International Codes of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independence Standards, ISBI Code, and other independence requirements applicable to performing audits of financial statements in Nigeria. We have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with IESBA Code and other ethical requirements that are relevant to audit of financial statements in Nigeria. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Key audit matter. Key audit matter is a matter that in our professional judgment was of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements of the current year. However, we have not identified such matter in our audit of the financial statements in the current year. Other information. The directors are responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the director's report, the audit committee's report, the corporate governance report, and other national disclosures, which we obtained prior to the date of this auditor's report. The other information does not include the consolidated and separate financial statements and our report thereon. Our opinion on the consolidated and separate financial statement does not cover the other information, and we do not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information. Doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and separate financial statements, or our knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. If, based on the work we have performed on the other information obtained prior to the date of this report, auditor's report, we conclude that there is a material misstatement of this other information, we are required to report that fact. We have nothing to report in this regard. Responsibilities of the directors for the consolidated and separate financial statements. The directors are responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of consolidated and separate financial statements in accordance with the International Financial Reporting Standards and the requirements of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, Financial Reporting Act 2011, and for such internal control as the directors determine is necessary to enable the preparation of consolidated and separate financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the consolidated and separate financial statements, the directors are responsible for assessing the group's and company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as appropriate, as applicable, matters relating to going concern and using the going concern basis of accounting unless the directors intend to liquidate the group and the company or to cease operations or have no realistic alternative but to do so. Auditors' responsibility for the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated and separate financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these consolidated and separate financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the consolidated and separate financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for the resulting than for one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group and company's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by the directors. Conclude on the appropriateness of the directors' use of the going concern basis of accounting and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the group's and company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report to the related disclosures in the consolidated and separate financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group or companies to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the consolidated and separate financial statements, including these disclosures, and whether the consolidated and separate financial statements represents the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. Obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business activity within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated and separate financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit. We remain solely responsible for our audit opinion. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with relevant ethical requirements regarding independence and to communicate with them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence and, where applicable, related safeguards. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. In accordance with the 5th schedule of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we expressly state that 1. We have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. 2. The group and company have kept proper books of account so far as appears from our examination of those books. And 3. The consolidated and separate statement of financial position and profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of account and returns. Signed 16 June 2023 on behalf of Deloitte & Touche by myself, Folorunsho Hunga. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Deloitte & Touche. Now may I invite the chairman of the Statutory Audit Committee, Mr. Femi Akinsoya, to present the committee's report.
Report of the Audit Committee to the members of Aradel Holdings Plc. In accordance with the statutory requirement of provisions of section, it's on page 63 of the annual report. In accordance with the statutory requirement of provisions of section 404, subsection 4 of Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, we, the members of the Audit Committee of Aradel Holdings Plc, having carried out our statutory functions under the Act, hereby confirm that the accounting and reporting policies of the group and company are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. In our opinion, 1, the accounting and reporting policies of the group and company for the year ended 31st December 2022 are in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practice. 2, the scope and planning of the audit for the year ended 31st December 2022 were adequate. 3, the external auditor's findings on management matters and management's responses thereto were satisfactory. 4, we have kept under review the effectiveness of the company's systems of accounting and internal controls. In our opinion, the scope and planning of the audit for the year ended 31st December 2022, together with the consolidated and separate audited financial statements, were satisfactory. The external auditors have discharged their duties conscientiously and satisfactorily. We were satisfied with management's responses to the auditor's findings. Signed by myself, Olufemi Akinsoya, Chairman Audit Committee, on the 12th of June 2023. Members of the Audit Committee during the year, in addition to myself, were Mr. Edi Efekoha, Shareholder Representative, Mr. Afolabi Oladele, Board Representative, Chief Bola Akinola, Shareholder Representative, and Ede Osanyode, Board Representative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Akinsoya. The audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2022 commences from page 63 of the annual report and the reports of the directors auditors and the statutory audit committee have now been presented to us. At this point, I'd like to invite the CEO, Mr. Adegbite Falade, to make a brief presentation about your company. As I said earlier, I think in many ways we can regard this AGM as the beginning of the rest of the story of Aradel. I don't think too many industries are undergoing the kind of changes that the oil and gas industry is currently going through. We all know about global warming, alternative fuels, the attempt to limit and reduce the use of fossil fuels, and many, many, many other challenges, including difficulty of accessing capital. I mean, there are some international financial institutions that no longer fund oil and gas operations. So there are challenges and problems aplenty. However, we believe that under our executive management, that they presented the board with a very robust and exciting program going forward, such that Aradel is not only going to be very different in many ways from when we operated under the previous name, but we fully expect that taking what we've achieved in the past as a baseline, that going forward, we have great expectations of the executive management and staff of Aradel. So we'll listen to our CEO to get an idea, to get a sense of exactly what plans he has with his team to ensure that the growth that we can look forward to will be substantially more impressive than our glorious past. So, CEO.
Thank you. Esteemed shareholders of Aradel Holdings Plc, the chairman and members of the board, the chairman and members of the statutory audit committee, regulators here present, representatives of the registrar, coronation registrars, representatives of the external auditors, Deloitte, the chairman of our host community development trust, management and staff of Aradel here present, members of the fourth realm of the estate, the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me first to offer an apology for the frustration some have expressed about the non-receipt of the copies of the annual general reports. We did send out this to everybody that we had their email addresses. We did send out physical copies to those who we didn't have their email addresses. In some instances, we have feedback that people have changed their address and that has not been updated to the registrar, and that explains why some may have missed it. We also have, as part of best practice, hosted copies on our website, and we decided to come with limited copies today, but obviously the limited copies we came with is not sufficient for those of you who don't have. I accept responsibility for that, and I do offer my apologies. Thank you. I'm most delighted to welcome you to the 28th annual general meeting of your company and to share a few remarks. Given the rich tradition and history of this great company, every edition of your annual general meeting had always been special. This one is particularly special on more than one count. First, on one hand, it is the first in-person edition since the advent of COVID-19, an event that was a watershed period in the history of humanity that brought a lot of dark moments to our industry. We are grateful to God for helping the global community to navigate the scourge and emerge stronger from it. Secondly, this is the first annual general meeting holding under the new name of your company, Aradel Holdings Plc, having successfully changed our name and identity from the erstwhile Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC, NDEP. We thank you for the approval that you granted at the extraordinary general meeting of 19th April 2023 for us to go this route. And most importantly, for your support, for your presence as we unveiled the new name, the new logo, and the new identity on the 4th of August 2023. Whilst the name has changed to better position the company for the next phase of its journey, the values for which this company has been renowned remains unchanged and we will remain the guiding pillars of our future pursuits. I'd like to speak to 2022 in context, and I'd like to start off by quoting from George Bernard Shaw, who said that we are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but by the responsibility for our future. In 2022, the global oil and gas industry experienced a rebound from the dark shadows cast by the global economic misfortunes that trailed COVID-19. Demand for fossil fuels surged as global travels increased exponentially. Improvements in aggregate global economy and the underwhelming performance of alternative energy sources stimulated significantly higher levels of demand for fossil fuels. Consequently, oil and gas prices held steady at appreciably high levels and well beyond the forecasted time horizons. Unfortunately, our nation, Nigeria, did not particularly enjoy the blessings of this resurgence. Local factors, especially unprecedented levels of theft of crude oil in transport pipelines, ensured that a significant portion of what was produced by all the operators did not get to the terminal. The level of crude theft in the pipeline was so bad that in the eastern flank of the Niger Delta, where our operations are domiciled, the operator of the Trans-Niger pipeline that we transport through had to shut down the pipeline for 6 months in the course of 2022 in order to carry out extensive repair works of the pipeline. In response, as a company, we had to dial back our production significantly, and in the process, we ended up the year 2022 with an upstream production performance that was just about 45% of what we achieved in 2021. Furthermore, it wasn't only the oil production that we cut back, we also had a negative impact on our gas production, as a significant portion of our gas, whether it is associated with the oil we cut back or the non-associated that we could not evacuate the condensate, we had to cut everything back. As we were winding down in 2021, it was clear to us that we needed to carry out some strategic and tactical measures if 2022 was going to end up on a positive note, and if your dreams and aspirations and investments were going to be met. To this end, some top priorities were identified, and I would say that under a most incredible, visionary, and hands-on board of directors, we pursued these top priorities and other imperatives of our business in 2022 in a lesser focused manner, not minding the headwinds that confronted us in our industry. We were bold and daring in our quest to ensure that when we would render our stewardship at today's event, we would have more positives than negatives to share with you. Consequently, number one, we delivered the alternative crude evacuation system comprising modification to our export pipeline and incorporating a portfolio of leased marine assets in the fourth quarter of 2022. With this, we accrued enough volumes at the terminal that enabled us to export crude for the first time in about 15 months from the last time when we exported. Number two, we debottlenecked our operational and commercial setup in the refinery, and in the process ended up doubling our capacity utilization relative to 2021, and also at higher realized product prices. Number three, we obtained SEC's approval to raise a 20 billion naira bond for our naira-based capex. We embarked on the first series to raise 10 billion, and we were hugely successful on the back of outstanding ratings by credit agencies. At the end of the exercise, the bond was oversubscribed at excellent pricing terms, and with the additional pleasure that the pension fund agencies subscribed to the overwhelming majority of the bond offer. May I put it on record that this was the first time that a company in our industry and in our sector would approach the bond market to raise capital. That we're able to pull this off at a time when the industry was in dire straits further reinforced our credentials and affirmed the fundamentals, the strong fundamentals of a well-run business. Number four, we restarted a growth campaign to drill 4 development wells in Ogbele at the tail end of 2022. This was after a deliberate hiatus of a full year to ensure that we carried out much needed front-end loading prior to drilling in order to ensure that we enhance the chances of success, whether it's geologically in terms of cost or in terms of value that we are adding. That campaign is still ongoing as we speak. However, as of today, we have successfully drilled 2 of the wells, and each one and both of them with excellent results that will continue to boost production and revenue in 2023 and beyond. Number 5, we reviewed our processes and implemented a number of strategic cost leadership initiatives. Whilst the constraint of our operating environment meant that we extracted less than half of the resources that we did in 2021, the combination of the significantly reduced levels of crude theft in the pipeline, which came to less than half of what happened in 2021, and the sustained momentum of product price enabled your company to achieve the highest nominal revenue in its history of equivalent of $156 million at the end of 2022. It is this modest operational and financial performance that has provided the basis for a second consecutive record dividend payment of 35 naira per share that the board of your company is proposing for your approval at today's annual general meeting. Number 7, we commenced a brand refresh program that was to culminate in a new identity, a new name, a new logo, and a new tagline that is befitting of the bold and ambitious next phase of your company. This has since been delivered in 2023 and is yet another milestone in our journey to unlock shareholder value through a well-managed brand identity. Permit me to speak to 2023 in context and the outlook. I quote from Mahatma Gandhi, who said, "The future depends on what we do in the present. At Aradel Holdings Plc, we are consciously working in the present moment, convinced that this is the most critical investment for the future that you seek for your investments in this company. Our first half 2023 performance is a massive improvement compared to what was already an elevated 2022 performance. As we stabilized our alternative crude evacuation system, as we improved on the capacity utilization in the refinery, and as we enjoyed better and increased throughput performance in the Trans-Niger pipeline, this has resulted into key highlights of the first half of 2023, which relative and compared to the corresponding period in 2022 includes an achievement of over 218% growth in our earnings. And as at half year, as at June 30 this year, we have already surpassed the full year revenue that we had in 2022 by 12%. Your company also has achieved a 416% increase in gross profit, a 479% increase in operating profit, and a 279% increase in profit before tax, among other financial metrics. Consequently, the share price of your company has subsequently increased from about 170 naira per share in January of 2022 to record levels above 440 naira per share as at Friday last week, representing over 170% growth in the share price over the period. Ladies and gentlemen, let me state that these results are not a flash in the pan. They are the outcome of decades of vision, focus, and disciplined execution that have entrenched the company's levels of resilience, redundancy, and robustness. We remain positive that the bright future of your company, both in the near and longer terms, will be sustained as we build on the current momentum to deliver on the growth aspirations of scaling up our operations in Ogbele, as we deliver on bringing on stream production from Omerelu, as we deliver on bringing on stream the PMS unit of our refinery, as we acquire new and additional assets, as we introduce new verticals of business lines in the renewable space, and as we skillfully navigate the energy transition challenge whilst remaining a key player in our nation's energy security agenda. To be a bit more specific, we are devoting a lot of our energy in the second half of the year to prepare your company to be a listed and premium entity on the stock exchange at some point in 2024, subject to the right timing of capital market conditions. This has always been a major clamor that has consistently been expressed by everybody that is connected to this company at every forum, at every opportunity. And we remain committed to making sure that we deliver this in the shortest time frame, God helping us. And we believe that in doing that, we will not only be delivering on your desires and aspirations, we will also be fulfilling the dreams of the founding fathers of this company, whose desire is that everybody from the length and breadth of this country can be an owner and a key player in the energy industry of our company. Distinguished shareholders of Aradel Holdings Plc, let me once again thank you for the unflinching support and the vote of confidence that has been reposed in the board and by extension to the management and staff of your company to continue to pilot the affairs of this great company. In rounding up, please permit me to put on record my special appreciation to the following category of persons. First, the board of directors, ably led by our chairman, Mr. Ladi Jadesimi, for the selfless and sacrificial efforts to ensure that this company fulfills the dream of shareholders and founding fathers. The unrestrained extent that the board of directors go to in availing their time, their wisdom and resources is extremely inspiring. Number two, my team of colleagues who have demonstrated supreme levels of grit, hard work, creativity, and astuteness as we run the affairs of this company every blessed day. To you, I would like to say you are the real MVPs of Aradel's progressive journey. Number three, our host communities who continue to show us tremendous goodwill and the solid support that has enabled us to thrive. Number four, the regulators of our operations and activities for their unflinching faith and support, without which we would not have come this far. Number five, the wide universe and family of persons who are connected to this company, either as former staff, shareholder, suppliers, vendors, contractors, service providers, and persons of goodwill who continue to support us, speak up for us, and champion our cause at all times and in all places. We say thank you. Number six, our competitors and rivals, and those who unconsciously fuel our resolve through their expression of doubt to continue to weather the storms of a very turbulent industry. Number seven, and most importantly, to God, who has blessed us with good health, sound mind, clarity of thoughts to do what we know to do best. Today, we take a step further in the journey of this great company. We deem it a great privilege that the ship of the enterprise has been entrusted into our hands at this critical junction. It is a trust we carry with a deep sense of responsibility. It is one that literally keeps us awake every night and challenges us to do more, to venture more, to explore further. It is one that we carry under the illuminating light of our creed that we will be the best performing energy investment, that we shall not relent in developing sustainable energy solutions for every home, that we shall be the most respected energy company in Africa. We look forward to the next edition of this annual general meeting of shareholders in 2024, when, by God's grace, we shall render the stewardship of account to you again, as we remain positive and hopeful of further strings of success and growth. Thank you for listening. God bless Aradel Holdings Plc. God bless our esteemed shareholders. God bless the energy industry. And God bless our nation, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, our CEO. I hope that as shareholders, stakeholders, that we all now had a sense of the leadership of your company, the executive leadership of your company, in terms both of the details that you supplied, of the steps they're taking. For example, we didn't export a single barrel of crude oil for about 15 months because you just couldn't get it to market. Many other producers have tried. I mean, it's obvious that everyone would think of putting in place an alternative, but of course it's easier said than done. Well, our able team have been able to establish a fairly reliable alternate source of evacuation of our crude, so that we are now exporting crude and, of course, earning dollars. As I said, as I said earlier, the confidence that the board has in the executive management is not based on the fact that the task before them is easy. Indeed, I think we have no reason to expect the environment to get any more benign. Maybe in some ways it might even get more uninviting and all that. However, where many see hurdles and problems, we see potential advantages. So we expect that the management team will deliver on the very, very high bar that we've set them in terms of performance and obviously the bottom line. As I said, not because it is easy, but because we have the confidence that we have the right team in place. I mean, we just listened to the CEO to get a measure of the executive leadership. And so I hope that our esteemed shareholders, as always, will continue to give the fullest possible support and advice to the management team as they forge ahead. Now, the next item is very important because the interaction back and forth with shareholders is very much appreciated. But for the sake of good order, the company had requested that shareholders submit their questions to the company's address at number 15 Babatunde Joseph Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, or by email to the email address given no later than 1 week to the AGM of today, so that the company secretary could collate them. The questions received will be read out and answered. However, if any shareholders who missed the deadline nonetheless has the desire to ask a question, you may now do so by raising your hand. Kindly, when called to speak, kindly state your name before you ask your question. Thank you. Elijah. Huh? Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, madam. Let me just finish this statement that questions will be taken from no more than 5 shareholders, both virtual to those who are joining virtually, as well as those physically present. So we have a limit of 5 shareholders. Thank you. Please.
Good morning, members of the board, regulators, distinguished shareholders present here this morning. Good morning to each and every one of us. I want to start my comments. Amalaja Kudaisi Ayodele. Mr. Chairman, I want to congratulate us on the change of name. The beauty and uniqueness of the new name we have just acquired is not only in the alphabetical meaning of it, but for the mere fact that it carries the names of our emeritus chairman, late Mr. Aradel Adams. Chief is the uniqueness of it, and it deserves an accolade. Mr. Chairman, I also want to appreciate the chairman, the MD, and the entire team of the company for the wonderful results the MD have read out for all of us this morning. It gladdens our hearts. When Mr. Chairman was actually asking for our support, I was saying inside of me, how can you change a winning team? If you cannot support this particular company with this type of result, then who else are we going to support? Definitely, we are going to support the company. Mr. Chairman, I also want to appreciate the entire team, like as I said earlier, for the level they are taking this company to. And I can not only appreciate you, the people of the present, the people of the past, the emeritus chairman, the emeritus MD, and a whole lot of other people that started this company. I think they deserve to be appreciated. Mr. Chairman, I want to actually say that at this junction, I want to appreciate also and to advise that the map-up objective and goals that we have for this year and the subsequent years ahead of us, we should stick to it religiously so that we'll be able to attain what we want to attain. We should stick to it. Then with the new, I want to ask, with the new FG policies of wanting to issue licenses to other smaller modular refineries to private companies. Thankfully enough, we are even several steps ahead of that level. Our refinery for crude is almost complete, which is a huge plus to us. I congratulate us for our foresight. Mr. Chairman, coming to the greener energy, the global community have agreed to shift to greener energy or less carbon environment for humanity's sake. Mr. Chairman, I think we should not shy away from contributing greatly towards this noble cause. We have to play our part. I thank the company for the 35 kobo. When I saw the 35 naira, I'm sorry. When I saw the 35 naira, I said, wow, where is this one coming from? But when MD came out now and told us how we shareholders were always Oliver Twist. We want more. Next year, it's not going to be 35 naira. It's not going to be 35 naira. We are expecting from 50 naira, and above. Mr. Chairman, sir, on the account we have just got in this hall, speaking to the future, please, there are some shareholders that have existing addresses. Please make effort to reach out to them ahead of the day of the AGM like this, so that we get, when you say you posted it in on our phones, I was just saying, data anko, tabafika, talofegbe. So please let us have the account ahead of that particular day, so that we'll be able to digest it very well and be able to make meaningful, contribution at our AGM. Mr. Chairman, on page 87, where we have exchange loss of 1.075 billion, I said, wow, how do we manage? How do we manage this? It's a huge figure against our account. So let's just see what we can do. Then other expenses on the same page 87, where you have other expenses lumped together to the tune of 2.215125 billion as against 751,034 billion. That is over 400% higher. So I think we need to do something about our expenses so that it will not make a negative impact on our bottom line. It is very, very important that we work on that. Then on our host community, sir, that's my last point. Our host community, we continue doing what we are doing to them that will then give us this peace of mind. We continue doing it and more. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe the gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All protocol duly observed. The name is Evangelist Dr. Anthony Omojola. I have come here to say thank you to the Board of Directors, management and staff of Aradel, for changing the name. The name looks more friendly than when you talk of Niger Delta. When you hear Niger Delta, the first thing that goes to your mind is you are afraid maybe something is happening or going to happen. But with the new name, we are happy with it. I've also come to say congratulations for a good performance, because I happen to know some of the challenges which the MD has just read out now. And for a company to be able to get out of that and still make a success of it in a very trying year like 2022, we say kudos to the director, management, and staff, and wish you well. One thing I want to say, I want to emphasize one point the first speaker said, because to me, we are already a company, not just reeling out crude oil, but even the refined oil. So I've already put us at that level. So what I want to say is that we should refine more oil instead of sending out crude. And when we get to a point where where we have excess local refined product, we can now export the refined product. It will be good for us as a company. It will also be good for us as a country. Well, another point which I need to emphasize, that the local community is very, very important. And with the PIA, I want us to take advantage of it. If we look at what is happening on the television, we hear this and that, because it's not well managed. I don't want us to run into that. We've been doing it very well in the past, and I want you to improve on it so that we don't have challenges of the locals trying to undercut us. So when we have them, and we have committees that is channeled with the responsibility of taking care of them, and everything is going well, definitely the company will excel higher, and I wish us more successes as we go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
The chairman, very distinguished fellow shareholders, other directors. My name's Nona Ao. Chairman, let me start on the note of what you have done. But I think what you have done has also not been well expressed as to what the company itself, how the company itself has communicated. So my emphasis this morning will be looking at your communication process. First, you did ask directors to introduce themselves. And what I constantly heard is your company. And I'm wondering whether you are not part of this company. I'm wondering. Interestingly, even 5 of you who own shares in your direct names also said your company. And you already put in dichotomy. So please, both for the representative of organizations and those of you who are also representing yourself. The word should be our company. Otherwise, you are saying we shouldn't trust you. But, Mr. Chairman, my major area of concern has to do with what you have on page. By the way, please permit me not to go the route of the two earlier speakers, because I think I should look at the account much more. If you look at page 131, the company itself did acquire the energy subsidiary. But if you then come to page 101, you will find that in the year in which the company is now being reported, revenue dropped and profit after tax turned negative to the tune of 14 billion loss. I didn't have enough time to look for the answers as to how the loss will have come about, but having read the CFO report, which I thought that's where she will have been situated, I didn't find any answer as to why that came about. So I'm hoping that somebody will explain to us what the challenges are as relates to the energy subsidiary. The second one, again, not unmindful of the presentation that the MD has made or additional statement that he has made. If you look at page 28, it was reported that in terms of volume, our volume went up in the year under review by 63%. And subsequently, capacity utilization went up to 24%, almost doubled. And I'm asking myself, what was that again did not allow us take the capacity utilization beyond that level? I think that itself will help the understanding of the future that you have talked about. Because the future itself is not by daydreaming, it's by putting policies in place. And if you express those policies, again coming to communication, then people will understand you better as to what the tomorrow holds for all of us. Looking at the board, and looking at page 49 and page 60, one of the things that I think you should also begin to look at is the fact that the law requires that you have a minimum of 3 independent directors. Until she was brought in, we only had 1. So when are the 2 other ones going to be imported? Since we import crude, I'm sure we can also import. So when are we going to import 2 other independent directors so that we can understand this business better? Mr. Chairman, looking at page 131 again and 132, which I will be taking in conjunction with page 89 to 92, I want to commend your assets growth strategy. And that is why I will also understand why you need to do more borrowing. But having done the first leg of the bond exercise, the question I'll be asking is, when is the next one likely to come? And what is it that we can do for the high interest paying borrowings that we have as a way of, again, moderating the finance charges that will come our way? Mr. Chairman, I was intrigued when the MD talked about the 35 kobo. But if you also look, 35 naira. And if you then look at page 13, one of the things that was also boldly stated there is that you are paying 75% higher than you paid last year. Both of them are true. But if you then look at the payouts before now, because one of the things you also alluded to is the share price. And those share prices, again, don't happen by magic. They happen by performance, which is one of the things that you have stated. They also have a second leg of it, which is also payouts. Before now, the highest that this company has done in terms of payouts was 18.94 in 2019 in terms of payouts. Now you have gone slightly higher than 50%. The question I will be asking, do we have a new dividend policy? And if we do, again talking about communication, I think you need to communicate it to us. So we are not looking at only the brown new name, we should also looking at brown new policies. Huh? So I'll be interested what's going forward. So we don't do this and then next year the story becomes slightly stable. As if we are policemen doing attention. I don't want us to do attention. But me understanding that you are not going to be a military man will be anchored on what the new dividend policy will be. Let me then take you to page 133. Again, I find that the unclaimed dividend there has dropped. But it's important that we begin to take it further more in terms of how much more of that we can drop. Because if you look at our shareholding structure, less than 2,000 shareholders, we should not have unclaimed dividends of this magnitude. So I'll be hoping that the office of the company secretary, fortunately for you, the registrar is an extension of your office. So you need to have some relationship with them, and the main task is how do we drive this figure down? Otherwise, we'll come in here. Some of us who came early, you give us tea. But what we are going to take home to make sure that this economy does not get worse than this in our pockets is what is important. Huh? So please work with the registrar. This figure must, next year, it must go further down. That is the only way we can, I will think that the registrars are doing additional work. Mr. Chairman, let me close on the note of, again, communication. I started with communication. Let me also close with it. When the MD was thanking the 7 classes of persons that he wanted to thank, strangely, he put shareholders in a global class of all other persons. And I'm asking, we are seed providers. Huh? I'm sure Chairman MD understands that. So if you are seed providers, don't lump us with people who are coming to collect money from you. We are not in the same class. Huh? And I'm hoping that going forward, that will be recognized. Please also, you did close on the note that God bless Nigeria. And I think we will be unfair to God if we keep asking him to bless us. What I think we should be praying, God bless us with good leaders. Not those ones who do Jankara right, left, and center. Because from our basic geography, not very many companies have the resources that we have. But unfortunately, in terms of management, we are at the bottom of it. So please, our prayer should be, God bless us with God-fearing and front-looking leaders. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very, very much indeed. Thank you. Thank you. We'll have a lady next. Oh, please, madam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, other board members here present and those participating virtually, the regulatory authorities, my fellow distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Barrister Adetutu Shinyombola. I'm the president of Highly Favored Shareholders. Mr. Chairman, I have some observations, comments, questions, and suggestions on Aradel Holdings Plc 2022 annual report and accounts. With your kind permission, I will quickly run through them. On page 8, financial performance highlights. Going through all the indices, I observed a growth in our turnover and a drop in our profit in the year under review. All the same, I want to seize this opportunity to encourage the board and the management team for their efforts and implore them to do more. On page 13, board and management changes. In chairman's statements, I observed that the board appointed 2 executive directors, namely Mr. Adegbite Falade as the managing director and chief CEO, and Mr. Adegbola Adeshino as financial director and CFO, in 2021. In addition, the board also appointed Ms. Patricia Simon Hart as an independent non-executive director on the 3rd of November 2022. I want to seize this opportunity to welcome them to our board and wish them a fruitful tenure in office. On page 40 to 43, the beautiful faces and the profile of the board of directors. I observe that we have only a single lady in the board of 9 directors, which amounts to 11%. This is unacceptable on gender balancing. We have to improve on it going forward. From page 44 to 47, the beautiful faces and the profile of the executive management team. I observe that we have only 2 ladies in the management team of 10 members, which amounts to 20%. This is unacceptable on gender balancing as well. We have to improve on it going forward. On page 50 and 55, attendance at board meetings and board committee meetings is good, but can be better. We have to improve on our attendance going forward. On page 53, dividend. I observe that the board has recommended a dividend of 35 naira per share in the year under review, compared to 20 naira paid out the previous year, which is 75% increase. This is commendable. Please keep it up. On the same page 53, charitable contributions. I observe that there is no breakdown of 175 million naira expended on charitable contribution anywhere in this annual report. We should list the beneficiaries with the amounts given to them going forward. On page 54, directors' interest in shares. I observe that 5 directors out of 9 listed, only 5 directors out of 9 listed have our shares attached to their names directly or indirectly in the year under review. Why? On page 67, consolidated and separate statements of financial position. I want to limit myself to group performance, the group position rather. Trade and other receivables under current assets went up from 18.6 billion naira to 31.5 billion naira in the year under review. What are the strategies, the modalities in place to collect these debts from our customers to the barest minimum so that it will not end up as a bad debt that will be written off? Trade and other payables under current liabilities also went up from 17.1 billion naira to 23.9 billion naira in the year under review. How do we intend to pay this debt to our creditors? On page 87, note 6, general and administrative expenses. I want to limit myself to group expenses. Traveling went up astronomically from 185.04 million naira to 560 million naira in the year under review. This is outrageous. It's even more than triple. Why? Then, finally, I observe that we have used this annual report judiciously to showcase our products to the whole world to see. This is commendable. Please keep it up. Thanks and God bless you richly, Mr. Chairman, for this opportunity. I appreciate it, sir.
Thank you so much, madam. Well, we'll take one more question and then we'll have the CEO respond. Eni Folami Gafa. Eni Folami Gafa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to stand on existing protocol. So my comment will start from page 8. Page 8. My name is Eni Folami Gafa. So on that page, I observed that revenue, gross profit, and profit before tax improved over the previous year. This is very commendable. However, when you look at profit after tax, despite the increase in profit before tax, profit after tax decreased significantly, indicating maybe there is an issue of tax that we may be having. So I need explanation on that. So I want to also suggest to the company to consider site visitation by shareholders. Site visitation, that is visit to our assets in Niger Delta. Then, how do we intend to sweat our oil and gas asset more? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll have our CEO address all the questions that have been posed.
Okay, let me thank our esteemed shareholders for all the questions that made it out of the gate. Some of them are comments. Just in the interest of time, I will not dwell on the comments. I will just go straight to the ones that have to do with questions. From Alaja Akuda, I say thank you. We will stick to the plans and the agenda for the future religiously, as you have advised. The comment you made about the policy of the government to issue new licenses to other modular refineries is noted. We are in a pole position because we have a head start. And today, we have more demand than we're able to satisfy. So we're in a very strong position. But we're not resting on our horse. Part of our medium-term plan is that at some point we will see an expansion of our current capacity from 11,000 barrels to even significantly more. We're working that, and we will get to that at some point in the near future. The desire for more dividend next year is noted. Please keep praying for us that the environment will be conducive, and when we get to that bridge, we will cross it. The point made about the desire for physical copies of the shareholder of the annual report is well noted. Again, I spoke to that when I started my speech. I would just like to crave our indulgence that please, for anyone who might have changed addresses, or if you didn't receive at all, please, our registrars are at the desk. Kindly drop your address just to make sure that we don't miss out on anybody. And without prejudice to what we will send out physically, our standard practice is that copies of the annual report will always be hosted on our website for anybody to download, anybody who has access to it, just for comfort. The point you made about the incident of additional cost is noted, and this is a common concern that has been raised by more than one person. And I think it's important to provide context to it. The barrister, madam, you also alluded to that as well. 2021 does not give us a truly reflective year in terms of costs. The reason being that in 2021, people were working largely from home. There were no travels. And as we came out of the doldrums of COVID-19, and we became more confident to send people out to field locations, to send people out on businesses, it's only natural that our travel costs will go up. So that's part of the reasons. Secondly is that in 2021, we did not lift any barrel of crude. And so some costs that are associated with lifting were not incurred in 2021. But we managed to lift some in 2022, and that crystallized into some associated costs. So that's the reason why you saw some bump in our costs. I'd like to give you the assurance that we are very focused on cost containment. And year on year, our unit cost of operation as a company had continued to go down. So we are mindful that it's not just we're growing the revenue, but that we're also dealing with the cost. From the evangelist, thank you so much for your comments. I think the key action point from you is that we need to refine more oil. And we're doing that. We're constantly growing the amount of oil that we are refining. In 2021, we refined a total of about 74 million liters. In 2022, we took that to about 152 million liters. And in 2023, we are already ahead of that capacity utilization. And somebody else also mentioned the issue around what is holding us back from the capacity utilization being higher than it is. We have carefully chosen the harshest metric to assess our performance in the refinery. Our capacity utilization is a combination of a number of factors, one of which is the plant availability. And I would say that our plant availability is actually much higher than our capacity utilization. However, there are some factors that affect the ability of off-takers to pick from us. Some of them have to do with road conditions. For a significant portion last year, we experienced flooding in our area of operation. And for those who are familiar with where we are located, the east-west road was flooded to the point that no truck could come in at all. No truck could go out. And these are part of the things that contain our capacity utilization. We're working at each one of them, trying to unwind them and make sure that our capacity utilization goes higher. We have a higher target for this year. We have a higher target for next year, and we're working hard at it. But what that then meant is that in many instances, we now find ourselves having to repair state and federal roads in order for trucks to be able to come to our location. And you agree with me that there is a fine balance that we have to make between intervention on road infrastructure and profitability. So these are the things we're working on. We have made adequate representation to NDDC for the fixing and the repair of those roads. We have made representation to the Federal Ministry of Works for fixing those roads. And we're working with them. The much we can continue to address through our own intervention, we will, just to make sure that we continue to drive the capacity utilization higher. Thank you very much on the comment around making sure we take care of our host community. We remain committed to that. I think one thing we have not said well enough is that our company pioneered the framework of Host Community Trust Fund. We consciously and deliberately decided that a percentage of our profit is earmarked to carry out social intervention within our community. And as a result of this, over the years, we have trained several hundreds of people through schools, through trade acquisitions. We have built roads. We have carried out electrification. We have built town halls. We've done quite a lot of things, provided water. And it's about how successful this has been that when the Petroleum Industry Act was going through its formation, that this template became onboarded as the framework for every operator in Nigeria to run with. So this is something we've done, and we are committed to doing more of it. And the point is well noted. Sir, please, you permit me, I didn't get your name when you introduced yourself, but I got the messages. It is not about your company, it is our company. And we will do better in accentuating that each time when we speak. You spoke about the incident of the loss in the financial numbers, and that also was spoken about by another person. Also by Mr. Eri Folami as well. A significant portion of that loss that you saw is the provision that we had to make for deferred tax. And the reason being that in 2022, the Petroleum Industry Act kicked in, and with a different fiscal compared to what we had before, which then meant that some tax that we have booked, we need to debook it in line with the new tax rate, because the tax shield that we had before for some of our expenses were no longer there. And so we have a spike in the tax that is recorded for 2022, not because we lost money, but it's an accounting treatment to respond to government's promulgation of a different tax regime for our industry. And that is really what accounted for that significant loss that you saw stated there. You also made a comment about the policy or the law to have minimum of 3 independent directors. That is not really the case. The law and the provisions of the Nigeria Corporate Code of Governance of 2018 and similar code requires us to have minimum of one independent director. Our board, as we have it today, has a board of 9 directors, of which 7 are non-executive and 2 are executive, and 1 of the 7 is truly an independent non-executive director. With that configuration, we satisfied CAMA, we satisfied NCCG of 2018, and we satisfied all the relevant codes relating to composition of the board. It is not minimum of 3 independent. Maybe what you have in mind is 3 non-executive. Actually, the requirement is that you should have more non-executive directors than you do have of executive directors. So on all counts, we satisfied these. And I would like to also mention that this board submits itself periodically to scrutiny and evaluation by best practice organizations. We had KPMG auditors for how compliant we are, and we are working on the areas of perceived gap, but this is not an issue that was raised at all. The comment you made about, the inquiry you made about our asset growth strategy is well noted. We are deliberately focusing on our asset growth. Our asset growth is along 2 lines. The first one is organic, and is in situ within the area where we're operating. And today, we have significantly grown not just our reserves, but our production as well. That speaks to the in situ one. As I mentioned in my speech, part of the near-term imperative is that we will not only begin to grow our directly operated production and reserves from Ogbele, we are also poised to start that from Omirelu, which is another marginal field that we are into. And for disclosure reasons, which will not allow me to be able to say more, we are hoping that in the near term, we might be able to also share updates as to successful acquisition of other assets that just helps us to continue to grow our operating base. Again, you mentioned, sir, the statistics around the payout. How what we had before, which was the peak in 2019, was 18.94%, and the payout in 2022 represents about 50% of the PAT. Again, that is correct. And I think the question you've asked is twofold. Number one, is this sustainable? We believe with all sense of responsibility that it is sustainable. You also asked if there is a dividend policy in place. And I'm happy to also mention that the board has considered and received and articulated a dividend policy that will continue to guide us. There are a number of variables that goes into the determination of dividend to be paid, of which the profit after tax is just one of them, and by no means the only one that is taken into consideration. And I'd like to assure you that we will continue to operate responsibly, looking at our capital needs requirements, looking at our working capital, and so on and so forth, to make sure that our dividend payout remains sustainable and remains reflective of what your aspirations are as shareholders. We recognize your comment about the reduction in the unclaimed dividend. And we are actually working very hard with the registrar to continue to reduce this more. We're hoping that through efforts that are going on right now to update registers and so on and so forth, we will be able to even reduce this further by the next edition of the AGM. I actually did commend our shareholders even before I went to the list of 7 separately. But I take your comment, and I will do better next time. And your point around God blessing us with God-fearing and forward-looking leaders is well noted. Ma'am, some of the things you raised, you spoke about the observation about the growth in our turnover, in our EBITDA, and so on and so forth, and the corresponding dip in the profit. I hope the clarification I provided earlier that we needed to make a provision to adjust for the change in fiscals is the major reason that accounted for that. Your observation about having only one lady on the board is well noted. I think it's a matter of whether the cup is half full or whether the cup is half empty. Exactly this time last year, we had no lady on the board. That we have one now, I think in itself is a progression. And the board deliberately and intentionally decided that the available slot must be filled by a lady. But it's not just that we have a lady in the person of Ms. Hart. As a matter of right, personally, she has distinguished herself and qualified on her own rights to be on this board. It's just an additional benefit to us that she's also a lady, and she then ticks that box to some halfway. And just to also underscore the inputs and what she brings to the board, she's the independent non-executive director on the board. So she's the most powerful director after the chairman on the board. You also made mention of that same observation with respect to the management team. And it's something we're also consciously looking at. We're working our recruitment process when we do have a vacancy to fill that allows us to try to balance the gender diversity. The reality is that our industry is a male-dominated industry. And that's the reality. We are an industry that is populated by engineers, geologists, and so on and so forth. And that skill is not at the point of recruitment. It's right from school. If you look into an engineering class in a school, chances are that you find in a class of 40, you find 36 that are guys and maybe 4 that are ladies. And so even in correcting it while we're watching out to make sure we bring in ladies at the top, I think we need to do more groundwork of encouraging women to go into the STEM program, enroll in sciences, so that we can create a wider pool from which we can then produce adequate ladies that will be the geologists, the reservoir engineers that will run this company. Your point on improving the attendance is noted. I actually do think that there has been a very strong level of attendance by directors, but we know that the ultimate is to have 100% across board, and we will do that. Your point around providing a listing around the breakdown of the charitable donations is well noted. We will take it as an area of improvement in subsequent reporting. Also, your point around the perceived lack of, if I will use that word, of equity ownership by directors is noted. However, I would just provide context that a number of our directors are not just direct shareholders, they're also indirect shareholders through other vehicles that are not listed in their names. And for the nominee directors that we have, their code and their charter by their parent companies, in order for them to maintain independence, forbids them to be able to substantially accrue shares. So it's not as you perceive it to be. There are a number of shareholdings that are not reflected directly under names, but that are under indirect equity ownership. Your point on trade and other receivables are well noted. I think it's more of a timing issue. It's a play out also of the factors that sales versus when we now started recording it in 2022. I can assure you that our business is substantially cash and carry for the downstream, and for the upstream, there is a timing issue to when our products are lifted and where we get payments. So some of these are timing issues. We've never had a default in the payment for our export crude. We've never had a default in the sale of our gas. So it's not as apparent. It's a matter of timing as to when the year ended and when we were to receive payments. And as I mentioned, in 2022, the only export that took place in the last quarter, and for which the payment was then received. There is a lead time of how long? About 40, 45 days. So the cutoff of the end of the year occurred when we were yet to receive it. But it happens clockwork, and it's not a threat to our business. I've spoken about the incident of traveling costs. Traveling costs for us is an investment to go chase the revenue. And as COVID lifted up, we have to resume back to normal status. So benchmarked against a year where you couldn't travel, even if you wanted to because of restriction in travel, it didn't give a fair reflection of how this played out. To the questions and the issues raised by Mr. Erin Folami, thank you very much. We've already answered the issue around the growth in the revenue and the decline in the PAT. I've already explained why that took place. But let me also mention that your point around organizing site visits for shareholders is a brilliant one. But if we share with you the operating environment under which even we commute to the site, and I don't want to scare you, I think maybe what we should do is to do a recording of the site and share it with you to see, so as not to create exposure for your good selves. We've had to considerably constrain the journey management of moving our people to the field in order to make sure that there are no sorry stories. And it comes at significant cost. And we don't want to put any of you in a risky situation. So, sorry? We should use the money. That's what we're already doing. So if we organize more visits now, the dividend will go down. And on the question on how do we sweat our assets, that is really what we're doing now. We're investing more and more to produce from our field, and that is going on. Okay. And there was a very interesting question about the rig collapse that took place in Seplat, a fellow operator. I think it's okay to first of all express our condolence about the fatality that occurred from that incident. We are pained by it. Our mantra in operation is that everybody that works for us, after working for us, should be able to go back home. Unfortunately, this incident happened and somebody couldn't go back home to his wife, to his children, and it really pains us. Our industry is an industry where we are continuously learning and trying to see how we can do things better. And what did we do? Now, we already have a robust job hazard analysis, permit to work system that makes sure we follow best practices in carrying out our operations. But arising from this seplat issue, we actually shut down our entire operation as Aradel and took learnings. So across all our locations in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, and in Ogbele, we had a stop work arising from these incidents just to review what were the learnings we've seen there, and even what are the things we also need to deal with. We are constantly carrying out operational audits. An operational audit has just been carried out across the facility just to identify where the hotspots are and where we might be exposed. We are constantly running operational excellence workshop to make sure the safety mentality is well ingrained in every staff. And we pray that as we continue to do this, not only ourselves, but other operators will be spared such an horrific experience as what happened to Seplat. I think and I hope I've captured all the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Managing Director. Thank the shareholders that, as always, we appreciate your loyalty, enthusiasm, advice, because I see many of these questions more or less as, at least in part, advice to management. Very, very much appreciated. Very much. Thank you. Now we go to maybe the second phase of the meeting, which is various resolutions that need to be put to the vote. Accordingly, may I invite the registrars to explain the procedure for voting throughout this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Esteemed shareholders, please be informed that we have captured a total number of 50 shareholders' voting details received by proxy and holding 99,698,583 units, representing 45.89% of the issued share capital. Hence, the voting results will be displayed in addition to the votes cast here today. When you came in this morning, you were provided with a voting device that we have configured to represent your shareholding in Aradel Holdings Plc. However, the result displayed will be by the number of shareholders. After the resolutions have been read out, the shareholders are to cast their votes. Kindly take a look at your respective voting pads. The button 1A is for a yes vote, 2B is for a no vote, and 3C is for an abstain vote. Once the voting has commenced, please press the reference button in accordance with your decision. And note that the shareholders can change their vote during the voting period. But once the voting period has ended, the last button you pressed will be recorded as your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Now to the resolutions for this AGM. The first is to declare a dividend and hope to get the concurrence of the shareholders. Pursuant to Section 426 of Section 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, as well as Article 108 of the Company's Articles of Association, the company may, in general meeting, declare a dividend for the year in respect of which the accounts are being considered on the recommendation of the directors. The directors have so recommended, and I propose as follows: that a dividend of 35 naira per ordinary share be paid to members whose names appear on the register of members as at the close of business on the 18th day of August 2023. May I have a shareholder kindly second the proposal? The lady, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate. My name is Waka Juliet. I move that motion. Okay, I second the motion. Waka Juliet
Sorry,
is my name.
What was the name again, please?
Waka Juliet. GBAKA, Waka Juliet. Juliet. Romeo and Juliet, sir.
Thank you, madam. I now call on the registrars to conduct the voting process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The voting period shall last 60 seconds. The voting has now commenced. Please press your keypad in accordance with your decision. The button 1A is for a yes vote, 2B is for a no vote, while 3C is for an abstain vote. Can we press our keypads, please? We have 15 seconds left of the voting period. Five seconds left. 2 seconds. The voting has now ended. We have a total of 65 shareholders who have voted in favor of the resolution. 1 shareholder voted against the resolution. No shareholder abstained from the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Accordingly, I hereby declare the motion duly carried. The next item is to re-elect a number of directors who statutorily have to retire by rotation. Before we move to the next item of the agenda, I would like to disclose that in accordance with Section 278, subsection 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, that both Mr. Afolabi Oladele and I are over 70 years of age. Now to the re-election of directors who are retiring by rotation in accordance with Section 285 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020. I've been informed by the company's secretary that Mr. Afolabi Oladele, Mr. Olugbenga Adetoro, as well as Mr. Austin Olonshola, are due to retire by rotation at this meeting. In accordance with the company's articles of association, I hereby call on Messrs. Afolabi Oladele, Olugbenga Adetoro, and Austin Olonshola to indicate their respective willingness or otherwise to offer themselves for re-election.
I, Afolabi Oladele, do humbly offer myself up for re-election.
Thank you.
I, Olugbenga Adetoro, do humbly offer myself for re-election.
Thank you.
I, Austin Oloronshola, do humbly.
Thank you.
I, Austin Oloronshola, do humbly offer myself for re-election.
Thank you. Now that each of the directors retiring by rotation has indicated their respective willingness to present themselves for re-election, For convenience, I would crave your indulgence that we take the voting for the re-election of the 3 directors as a single resolution. Director. She joined the board in the interim between the last AGM and today. So we need the kind approval of the shareholders to reconfirm her appointment. Pursuant to Section 274 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, as well as Article 95 of the Company's Articles of Association, the Board of Directors hereby present Ms. Patricia Simon Hart to be ratified as an independent non-executive director on the board. We have her profile on page 43 of the annual report. And I may also add that since she joined the board, she has already shown that, because you can often have an impeccable CV and somehow performance doesn't match. But I have to say that since she joined the board, she has already become a very, very useful member of the board. May I hereby move the motion for the ratification of the appointment of Ms. Patricia Simon Hart as an independent director of the company. I'd appreciate a shareholder kindly, maybe let's have a lady. Can we have a lady? Okay, the lady, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Abioye Victoria Isodu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I now call once again on the registrars to conduct the voting process.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would shareholders in support of the motion indicate by a show of hands, please? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, yes, so are they going to count them? Okay. Will the registrars kindly actually count, because we need for record purposes to have the numbers for the yes and the numbers for the no. So those voting in favor, kindly raise your hands again, please. Please. I thought you said they want to count. Okay, and those against, please. Thank you so very much indeed. Thank you. I hereby declare the motion clearly, unanimously carried. The next motion is to do with the reappointment of our external auditors, Deloitte and Touche. Deloitte and Touche served as auditors of the company for the accounting year ended 31st December 2022, and they've indicated their willingness to continue to render their services to the company. May I hereby move the motion that Deloitte's continued service as auditors to the company be and is hereby approved. I'll appreciate the shareholder to kindly second the motion. Please. Yeah. Yes. Yes, please. Take the mic.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yes, my name is Evangelist Akola Suarez.
Okay,
Thank you.
well. Thank you.
And I second the motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Registrars, kindly conduct the voting process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would shareholders in support of the motion indicate by a show of hand, please? Thank you.
Thank you. And those against? Thank you. Motion again unanimously carried. The next item is to authorize the director to determine the remuneration of the external auditors. And the motion is as follows: that the directors be and are hereby authorized to determine the remuneration of the auditors for the accounting year ending December 31st, 2023. And I'll appreciate the shareholder to kindly second.
So do, Aziz Lukman is the name. Aziz Lukman is the name.
Thank you. Registrars, kindly conduct the voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would shareholders in support of the motion please indicate by a show of hand? Thank you.
And those against?
Those against, please show. Okay, the motion has been unanimously carried.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Motion duly carried. We now come to the election or re-election, as the case may be, of members of the Statutory Audit Committee. This next item on the agenda is for membership of the Audit Committee. But before taking that item, I'm very happy to use this opportunity to thank the members, the existing members, or rather the outgoing members of the Audit Committee for the job they've done in the 2022 financial year. So our thanks to them. The Company Secretary has advised that by virtue of Section 404, subsection 3 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, membership of the Audit Committee is now made up of 2 non-executive directors, representatives of shareholders. For the 2023 financial year, the Board of Directors has resolved and nominated Mr. Afolabi Oladele and Mr. Ede Osonyade as the directors on the Audit Committee. I'm further informed by the Company Secretary that nominations were received from shareholders to elect or re-elect Chief Bola Akinola, SAN, Mr. Femi Akinsoya, Mr. Eddie Efekoha, Mr. Erinfolari Gafa, Mr. Eyanuku Peter Onobehie, and Mr. Kola Wole Ganiu Amu as shareholders representatives on the Audit Committee. She confirms that the nominations were received at least 21 days before today's meeting, as required by Section 404, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, and that all gentlemen have indicated their willingness to serve in that capacity. Okay, I understand that Mr. Erifolayan Gafar has stepped down in the interest of continuity. Thank you. Thank you very much. With a membership limit of 3 and with now 5 valid nominations received, we now have to decide by voting. Please kindly note that each shareholder may only vote once, but for 3 nominees. I hereby move that the 3 sorry. Absolutely. At this point, would the nominees kindly come forward so as to physically present themselves to the shareholders? Thank you. Is Femi here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay. Do we have, I think we have all 5. Okay, now we go to the voting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Esteemed shareholders, please be informed that we have captured votes of the shareholders who completed the proxy forms. Shareholders physically present will also vote by a show of hand. Subsequently, the combined results of the proxy votes and the show of hand votes would be displayed or would be read out. Thank you. I would start by calling out the names of the nominees.
I understand that we have one less nominee because Mr. Kolawole Ganiwamu has kindly agreed to step down in the interest of continuity. So we're now down to 4, and 3 of the 4 will form the statutory representatives of the shareholders on the statutory audit committee. Madam Registrar, please.
Hold on, please. Okay. Okay, I start with Mr. Femi Akinsoya. Okay, all those voting in favor of Mr. Femi Akinsoya, please indicate by show of hands. Please, we are taking a count. Please, may your hands remain raised while we take a count.
Mrs. Humphreys, for them to count us. They're not looking this way. Huh? Are you sure?
Are we true?
I don't think so. Victoria, you didn't count. Did you count us?
Please.
They didn't.
Okay.
All of us voted.
Oh,
all of them voted in favor of Mr. Femi Akintola.
how many voted?
There are nine. Nine. Myself as well, I voted.
Okay, thank you. Please, we are still counting.
Sorry.
All the directors. Oh, there's no. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you can put your hands down. Thank you. Do you have a number now? Okay, thank you, shareholders. I'll call upon Mr. Eddie Efekoha. Would all shareholders voting for favor? Please keep your hands raised if you are voting in favor of Mr. Eddie. And all the directors. Okay, no. Thank you. Okay, would all those voting in favor of Mr. Kolawole Ganiu step? I'm so sorry. Sorry, please. We have Mr. Bola Akinola. Would all those voting in favor of San Bola Akinola show by raise of hands? Are you done? Don't worry, they're counting you, sir. All those here, you can keep your hands down, please. You have been counted. You can keep your hands down. Thank you. You have been counted from the back. Thank you very much. Thank you, shareholders. We ask that you remain patient while we collect the votes. Thank you.
Madam Company Registrars, do we have the results, please?
Mr. Chairman, we'll hand over the results to you very soon, please. Thank you.
Because they're adding the ones that voted by proxy.
Sorry, Chairman. Again, with due respect to the office of the company secretary and the CFO, if you look at this agenda that we have on page 138, nothing is mentioned as to the shareholders approving the directors' fees. And I hope that the answer that you are going to give is not what is being paraded by a number of companies. Because one of the things you hear is that, oh, since we are now increasing directors' fee, we don't need approval. I don't think it is correct. Unfortunately, I'm not a lawyer. But what I do know about that segment is that as a finance person, it's an expense. And if it's an expense, that expense needs to be approved. So I'll be hoping that going forward, since it's not been stated in this year's annual account, that next year it should be an item for us to approve.
Okay.
That is an appeal that I want to make.
Yeah.
But Chairman, with your permission as well, I think it's also before the result comes. As minority shareholders, it is important that one of the ways that we can protect our investment is to make sure that we have the best of hands on our audit committee. Please, don't go around sentiment because somebody is your friend, is your brother. Because once we put the wrong persons there, like we have seen in a number of companies, there will be a collusion. Even when there is no collusion, there is no proper protection of our investment. So please, please and please, rather we should even be looking for people who can help us protect our investment. Please. Otherwise, the essence of we having 3 members representing us on the audit committee as against 2 from the directors will have been defeated. It's an appeal that I'm making because a number of us have lost money, and given what some of us have seen, a number of us will still lose money. So please, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your permission.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. On the point about directors, fees, I'm advised by our Committee Secretary that even though you did make a valid point, that the reason it wasn't put to the vote formally is because it remains the same. There's no increase. Although I take the point that that doesn't, the requirement to have it formally tabled and approved is not vitiated simply because it's not changing. So it's a point well taken, and with your indulgence, we'll ensure that in coming years and AGMs, whether the fee is changing or not, it will be put to the vote for actual information and actual approval of shareholders. It's a very good point. And also to your point about the representatives on our audit committee, you're quite correct that that committee is indeed, it's not just a formality or rubber stamp kind of committee, and it should be composed of people that are knowledgeable sufficiently to be able to review, to know their way around balance sheets, and be able to review the audited or the works of the external auditors. So it's a very important task, and the board just took it that the fact that it's always so enthusiastically attended to by shareholders, we took for granted that, of course, we all realize that they're doing a very good job, and we need to be confident that we're putting in people that have sufficient knowledge and skill to do the job. But as far as I'm concerned, anyway, I think we have members representatives on the statutory committee that should be able to represent shareholders adequately. But of course, it's up to the shareholders to elect their representatives. It was a very important task, and we should have people that are able to discharge that duty as members. But it's up to the shareholders. I think we are waiting for the results of the votes, both by those physically present as well as by those who voted by proxy. And that's why there's a little bit of delay on the part of the registrars in giving us the results of the voting.
to make a correction.
Thank you. Okay, we have the results of the voting, and the representatives of shareholders on the audit committee by way of today's elections are as follows. Mr. Femi Akinsoya, 135 votes. Mr. Bola Akinola, 110. And Mr. Eddie Efekoha, 88. And Mr. Peter Inyanuku, 52. Accordingly, the members of the audit committee, the representatives of the shareholders who have been re-elected to the audit committee are as follows. Mr. Femi Akinsoya, Mr. Bola Akinola, and Mr. Eddie Efekoha. Thank you. Thank you. Do we need a motion for that? No, really. They've been elected. They've been elected. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the business of today's annual general meeting. Thank you very, very much indeed, distinguished shareholders, both for your attendance as well as for the active participation at this meeting, especially the questions asked that, as I said, at least in part advice to the management, which are very well taken. Before I declare today's annual general meeting closed, I'd just like to briefly restate the fact that in many ways, this marks the beginning of the rest of the history of now Aradel Holdings. I believe we've had sufficient opportunity to listen to the managing director, who at the end of the day is the head of the management team. We all assume that the environment isn't going to get any more benign, and we're all aware, of course, of the difficulties of trying to execute any business today in Nigeria. Now, in oil and gas, we probably have more challenges than most in terms of the operating environment, which is exemplified by the incredible oil thefts. As you know, when you flow your oil, there's a cost to the oil you've produced, and when it all fades into thin air, then it becomes a huge challenge. However, as I said, the current management have been tasked with, it's a simple motto that they should regard what we've achieved from the start of this company to date as the baseline from which we expect them to take us to, well, the sky shouldn't even be the limit. But I think that, they will continue, the management will continue to need the advice, the loyalty, and the prayers of shareholders in discharging a very, very onerous task. However, we feel confident both by the performance in the course of this year, which is an advance on the performance of last year. We are confident that the management and the entire staff, because of course you have not just the top management, you have the entire staff that have all been extremely diligent in their duties and that keep contributing to the success that we are achieving. So we need to remember them and applaud them and thank them very, very much indeed. I hereby declare that the 28th Annual General Meeting of Aradel Holdings Plc be formally brought to a close. And to assist us to put closure on today's meeting, we kindly request Pastor Femi Balogun to kindly give us a closing prayer with wishes for God's guidance as we navigate a very difficult environment, but with the assurance that we have the right team that is more than up to the job. Thank you.
Praise the Lord. Let's rise up for prayer. Oh God, our Father, our God, and our Daddy, the creator of the heavens and the earth, we thank you for the privilege, Almighty God, to belong to this company that you yourself established. Father, accept our thanksgiving in Jesus' name. Father, we submit and we agree that you are the custodian of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Father, Lord, and we know you have guided us to where we are today from the beginning. And we know you will take us to the ultimate in Jesus' mighty name. Father, we are asking you, oh Lord God, to strengthen the team with knowledge from above, with wisdom and understanding. And we are asking, Almighty God, despite whatever is going on in this country and all around the world, you can sustain us, you can encourage us, you can empower us, and you can give us opportunities, Lord, that we will continue to, Almighty God, achieve our aspirations to take this company higher and higher. Let it be so in Jesus' mighty name. Father, we are asking, Almighty God, the resources we will need. Almighty Father, Lord God, spiritual, financial, social strength and power. Father, Lord, provide for our directors and the board in Jesus' name. We pray that divine direction that will make a community, a country, individual to get to the right place with the right allocation of resources, you grant unto them in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, our Father. We count on you, O Lord our God, that every year we will see this company leap in bounds, Almighty God, from one level of glory to another. Let it be so in Jesus' mighty name. Thank you, precious Father. Thank you, King of glory, for we have prayed by faith and received answers by faith. So shall it be in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Thank you all very kindly. And we'll meet again next year. But of course, we'll have interactions in the course of the year as always. Thank you. Thank you all very kindly. Thank you.
Attention, please. Please, if you have the voting tab, kindly return them to the registrar or indicate so that they can pick it up from you. And then if you drove to the venue, please, you're not required to pay when you're going out. But